How you doing out there, folks? This is the second time that I'm doing a video, as the Invisible Man. I'm trying to show you by wearing a disguise. That's what Merrick Bank is doing. When they're trying to contact you for your debt, they're hiding behind the caller ID and the robot. Because I received all these calls, and not one time did a live person dial a number. They never left a message or nothing. So I decided to make my point. I'll be the Invisible Man, and Merrick Bank is the robot. And let me fill you in case you haven't seen one of my videos. I'm pretty upset with this bank, for the tactics that they're using. Okay, let's go back a little ways. Say 2018. We got an application, pre-approved. It was from Merrick Bank for $600. And she wanted it and all. She was happy because she felt that she was getting rewarded for, having good credit. So I agreed with her. And not only that, the offer stated that it was double the credit line. I explained to her, we make 7 on-time payments, and then they'll give another $600. Oh, she was happy about that. Okay, so we went online and signed up. She filled everything in, and she got a card from me, authorized user. So that's pretty much. And then there was I guess you could call it a disclosure there. It said you have to check a block there to say you authorize them, or you give them permission to call you using an auto dialer on your cell phone. That if you don't, then the offer will be declined. They'll rescind it. Of course, I told Marie all about this, and she said, well, I don't care. If they want to call me, they can call me. I'll call you about the account. I said, okay. She submitted it. We got the 2 cards, one for her and one for me, and we used it. The only problem is, Marie got very sick. Over time, that was in 2018. 2019 is when she really got sick. She ended up going to a nursing home and passing away. And so I was having all kind of problems. I couldn't pay the bills, but I kept paying Merrick Bank as long as I could. So finally, when I stopped paying, in about a month or so, the call started. This was in November of 2019. The call started. I said, uh-oh. I know to keep track, so I kept track. When I waited a couple of weeks because it didn't stop. I could see calling on both phone numbers too, the landline and the cell number. And I noticed now that I just looked it over, there was one day they called 5 times on the landline and 2 times on the cell phone. That's 7 calls in one day. You think that's not harassment? So I contacted the lawyer, that I used, because Merrick Bank is one of the accounts that he deals with a lot. So he said, yes, send me the information, and he sent me the contract, by email, and I signed it and sent it back. This was in November of 2019. So the call stopped. As soon as I contacted him, the call stopped. And then what happened? In January, the very beginning of January of 2020, about a month ago, the call started, but only on the landline and not the cell phone. So doesn't that seem kind of strange? I never had that happen. Once they stop calling, they start up again. But maybe this situation is a little different, since there's litigation against them. So that was in November of 2019. So the litigation's in my name. So the fact that it's in my name and I am on the account. So it wasn't like I wasn't. But the funny thing about this is that me being on the account authorizes me to take litigation against them for making those calls with the auto dollar on the cell phone. But yet it doesn't authorize me to be responsible for a debt in somebody else's name, because I was not a joint card holder, I was not a co-signer, and we're not legally married. And neither one of us have an estate. So what they're doing here is, I think, when they start calling me in January, it was, I think I got over 80 calls in January. And what they did was the same thing. They were calling about 4 times a day. They used 6 different phone numbers. They all went to the call center. So what I think it was, you say, and there's 7 days. So the way they had it set up was that on Saturday they would call me 4 times, and maybe not on Sunday. But if they would have called on Sunday, they would have used the same number on Sunday. So I think all those different numbers, probably they did that to maybe program the system they have, or that if you called any one of them, it would go to a different call taker. So that way they were able to distribute who gets the calls there, who would answer them. So another strange thing about it, when I was getting the calls in November, they called on Sunday. Now, this year, January, they didn't. It's part of the harassment. That's how it's supposed to be random, I think. But I think it is and it isn't, because somebody has to program it. You know, the computer can do the thing, but you have to put in the information so that it can follow the program that you want. So I think that's why they were doing it that way. In other words, they didn't call on Sunday this year, so they didn't call on Monday in the daytime. They waited till afternoon, and then I get 4 calls close together. Now you tell me that that's not harassment. Forget about the auto dollar, because the harassment is another issue. So what are they doing now? Well, they're retaliating against me for taking out litigation against them. Is that what they're doing? So now what they're doing, by doing that, they might have another case. Now I have the same lawyer, and I told him about it, and he's contacting them all the time, the lawyers of Merrick Bank. And at first he reached out to them, but they're probably trying to drag it out, you know. So then I told him again, and he said he's going to make them stop. And the calls did stop. It was all January to the end, and then the call stopped. Now I got nice peace and quiet again. The phone's not ringing, and I'm happy about that. But I'm not happy the way they harass me over that account. And I figured it's time for me to make people aware of it, because Merrick Bank is not one of the big banks. They're big, but they're not like some of the other banks. They may only have like maybe almost 1 million customers. Some of those banks have millions of customers. There's a lot of banks that know how to treat the customers. If you're paying your bill for months and all on time, and all of a sudden you have a problem, they treat you like they just want to add more fees, add-on charges, whatever they do. So if they have to write it off, there'll be more money to write off. Or they can send it to collection. Here's another issue with this case I have with Merrick Bank. Since Marie passed away, the debt was supposed to be passed away also. It's uncollectible. So they're trying to collect it from me. So in other words, They're bringing the debt back to life. It's like a zombie debt, so they can try to collect it from me. They're trying to get their money, right? Well, what they did was, if they would have stopped calling me in November and left it like that, I wouldn't be doing all this now. Because they got me so upset over it that I want to make sure everybody knows that what a problem you're going to have with this bank. There's other banks too that do it. All these unethical tactics they use, there's something wrong with it, you know. I mean, there's laws to protect the consumer. But what they're doing, they circumvented it. They're allowed to call between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., and that's exactly what they do. Now, the amount of calls is not mentioned, but annoying phone calls is. You can't tell me you're going to get called like the way they do it. Like I said, it's like a psychological warfare. They're trying to beat you down. What am I supposed to call them up and say, okay, well, stop the calls and I'll start paying, make a payment arrangement? Well, sure, that's what they want. And a lot of people probably do it. Maybe they, for the month or so, they were having problems and they maybe got over the hump and they was able to pay. They go ahead. That means as soon as you're late, maybe a month, that triggers it, right? The calls start. Why don't they have a live agent try to call first and leave a message? They don't want to do that because I think they're afraid that someone might get the message that the account doesn't belong to. In our case, it wouldn't matter because I know about the account that Marie had. Because I know that they used to do that before. You know, a creditor or a debt collector would call and they would leave on the message, it would say, this call is for so-and-so. If you're not that person, hang up. So that's what they were trying to, they used that tactic. But this is different the way this is. That's what I say. I'm not invisible now, huh? They're invisible. You don't see anybody when that phone rings. You don't talk to anybody. So that's what I'm so upset about those calls, because it's harassment. And you know, you got to keep track of it. I keep mentioning this all the time. A phone log's very important. You have to have the date. You should have the day, the time to call, the number they used, and any comments, anybody you talk to. See, because that's how come what I've been saying here is I'm basing it on that phone log, a lot of it. Because I just looked it over again. You know, and that's how I realized in November they did call me 7 times in one day. Here's another thing about the numbers. I said they used like 6 numbers, different numbers. I noticed when they call me that 7 times, they use the same number. So they call me 5 times on the landline and 2 on the cell. The same number again. So of course, if to stop calling, like when the lawyer contacted them, it stopped right away because all they did was they delete your phone number from that call list. And that's how it stops. It's not like it's involved. They have to have a program to stop. It's easy to stop the calls. I don't think the system is that good because I wouldn't be this upset over it. And I think a lot of people are, but they're having problems and they don't think they can do anything. As far as a lawyer, everybody knows the lawyers are expensive. And, you know, if you don't have money to pay the bill, how are you going to pay a lawyer? Not realizing that the lawyers, there's plenty of lawyers out there that don't charge for the service. Because if they don't win the case, they don't get paid. You don't have to pay, and I don't have to pay. I know for sure because I got a lawyer. Last year, when I was having all those accounts, I gave him all the information, and the ones that he dealt with that he could handle, he knew how to handle based on those calls. Now, you can get money for the calls, but it has to be handled by a lawyer. So that's why I say it's important to keep track of it. Now I got, let's see, November 2019, I think I had 43 calls on the landline and 19 on the cell. because I stopped it myself because I contacted the lawyer. If I would know, it would have probably kept going. There's a lot of things that they're supposed to do, and there's a lot of things that these creditors and debt collectors are not supposed to do. So I'm just putting this information out there, and I want to let everybody know that you don't have to put up with it. Merrick Bank is the one that's giving me a big problem, and I don't like it one bit. And I'll tell them right to their face. I don't have to hide behind a mask either. So I'm just, like I said before, I'm just as upset right now, even though the calls are stopped. Because I don't trust them. What, a month and a half from now, they're liable to start up again. That's why you have to have a lawyer to back you up. As long as you don't have to pay. Remember, when the calls stop, you still owe the debt. You got to keep that in mind. It doesn't absolve you of it. In my case, it's different because the cardholder passed away. And, like I said, I'm only an authorized user, and we weren't legally married. So that particular case is different. And things are different with these cases, but this calling, this is really too much. It needs to be changed. Now, if everybody starts complaining to the Consumer Protection Bureau, they take those complaints serious. You can just go online and can do it. There's thousands and thousands of complaints. And I think they separate them by, category, like the ones for the calling. Well, that's the ones that are probably the most complaints. And they see what banks do it, what debt collectors do it. And if there's enough of them, that's how they can start legislation to try to stop it. But this call-in, though, I never had this happen. In all my years of credit that I've had, I've got them calling me, a lot like that. But never stop calling and then start up again. So this is one of the tactics they're using. I'm surprised they did that. Maybe because of the litigation that I have. And I finally called up, I say last week, and I called one of the numbers that's on the caller ID. And what do you think happens? Another recording, another robot. And it says on there, your call will be recorded for quality assurance, and the next agent will be with you shortly. Okay, now that means if I didn't want to be recorded, because I wanted to be recorded, but if I didn't, I guess I got to hang up and don't do it. So when the lady came on, customer care representative, I said to her, I'm letting you know that this call is being recorded for quality assurance. And then she said she didn't agree. Then all of a sudden she changed her mind and asked for the information. I gave her the information. Then she said, well, we didn't know that Marie passed away. I said, you didn't care about my loss. I only cared about the loss from Merrick Bank. And she goes ahead and answers, oh, well, they don't care about the money. How can she make a statement like that? They don't care about the money, then why are they calling everybody? For that alone, she could probably lose her job, because she's not authorized to say that, to make any real deal. She didn't know what to do, because I put her on the spot. So what'd she do? She puts me on hold. I guess talk to somebody else there. Some supervisor, and came back, and then, had that funny music on. And then she said a couple more things about they wanted a death certificate. I said, no, I'm not going to send a death certificate. I have it. I'll have to check with my lawyer. So, went on a few more things, and that was it. So I recorded it. I posted it already, that particular call, And that's an example of the customer service people they have working there. That's a good example. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't care. Act like I was bothering her, huh? Well, I'm going to bother Merrick Bank all I can right now. I'm not satisfied. If this litigation goes on, if I win the case, or cases, I'll see about if I'm going to stop. Now, if my lawyer instructs me to stop, to stop this ranting and all that I'm doing, I will. Because I respect him, and I know he knows what he's doing. He's a super lawyer. So if you need a lawyer and you're having any problem with these creditors, I'm going to give you his name. His name is Paul Mankin, M-A-N-K-I-N. He gives you a free consultation. His number is 800-219-3577. I'll repeat the number. It's 800-219-3577. So you can give him a call, and he'll tell you what can be done, especially Merrick Bank. If you're having a problem with Merrick Bank, because Merrick Bank is not well known. I'm sure a lot of people who listen to my videos probably never even heard of Merrick Bank. You might have heard of all these other banks that do the same thing with this calling. And again, back to the permission. In other words, if they put a pre-approved offer for Marie for double the credit line, now they're putting in there that she has to give them permission to call her. That shouldn't be. I think that's against the law. That's supposed to be done separate, that permission. Not none on that offer. That's supposed to be separate. So that means that's wrong already. And another thing is, Merrick Bank is not making the calls. They may have hired a company. So that company has got to ask for permission to call you. So that's wrong already. Maybe my interpretation of this isn't correct, but I think it is. But they know what they're doing. They definitely know. They know what they're doing. They're trying to circumvent the law. And I can prove it. Because that's why they stopped calling me on the cell phone. And that's why they ask permission to do it. Because they know it's a violation if they don't. But if you tell them to stop, they have to stop. Merrick Bank or any one of those winky-dink banks or debt collectors, they're not above the law. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. I want to bring it to the attention of especially Merrick Bank customers, but any customer of any bank that's being harassed for payments. If you can't pay, you can't pay. I know I can't pay. You think they would try to work it out with you? Because I've had different banks. The bigger banks, they know how to treat the customers. That's why they're bigger. Because when I had this problem, I let them know that Marie was in a nursing home. We might have problems with her account and mine. So they called me about it. And then when she passed away, I had a woman call me, left a message, and said, "Frank, I'm sorry to hear about your loss, and accept our condolences, and give us a call and we'll work it out." So I called them, and I told the lady, and she said, "We'll forgive Marie's account because we can write it off whatever happens, but your account, you're still responsible for it. We'll take the late fees off and we'll adjust the finance charges and we'll adjust your credit. We'll give you 3 months, to get your affairs into order. And after 3 months, if you don't contact us, we'll send it to collection." And I agreed to all of that. But now that was no more. That was the end of it. They don't have no lawsuit. Of course not. They're not going to have it. They put their name on the caller ID and their number, and they left a message. And they only called one time, maybe a couple other times, and that was it. So Merrick Bank's not doing that. It looks like what they're doing is they're getting rid of, getting rid of the customers that are late or can't pay, and they're sending all these offers out to get new customers to make money off of them with the finance charges and all, and the add-ons and all that. So I hope everybody, listens to what I'm saying. I'm trying to make a point that if you're having problems, you don't have to take it. And that's exactly what they've been doing to trying to collect these bills. I've had credit for all my whole life, off and on, you know. I'm in my 70s now. Merrick Bank has been in business over 20 years. I have experience over 50 years with this credit. I had so much credit one time. Let's see, I had 80 credit cards. Had over $200,000 in credit. I got in a lot of trouble for that. Because it was over an 8-year period. This was over 20 years ago. I kept getting more credit. I kept making up names, all kind of stuff. Because I didn't know what to do. I was deep in it, owing that much, and I was paying one with the other. I still kept working. You know, I didn't have a house, and I didn't get a car. None of that from the credit. My lifestyle didn't change at all. Me and Marie was together the same way and all. She didn't know nothing about it. I didn't want to get her involved with it. Then finally, one of the banks contacted the Postal Service because I had 2 cards. I was on both of them, and they were like $5,000 each from the same bank. So they contacted the Postal Service. I guess they started investigating, and they come and broke down our doors, broke into the house with guns drawn. And I wasn't a ringleader or nothing. And I ended up getting railroaded to prison for that. Marie wrote a book about it. She wrote 3 books. One of them was Railroad to Prison. It's all about those credit cards. How the government, you know, railroaded me because I wasn't really getting the cards like what they said, you know. A lot of it, the inflated, the fraud loss total, I was getting, our bills was in there. It shouldn't have been. Anything in my name or Marie's was not supposed to be on there, and it was, to make it over $200,000. Under $200,000, I wouldn't have went to prison. I would have just been on probation or whatever, home confinement. So I have a lot of experience with this. That's why I'm mentioning all that, because I put up with a lot of it, with all those calls. Years ago, the calls were worse. They would threaten you. Oh, they're going to call the police. They're going to put a lien on your house, or they're going to tell your neighbors, oh, I'm going to put you on a list, all kind of things, and that's all a violation. That's why these calls have evolved now the way it is, because they're not doing all that. They're not even leaving a message. They're not even having a representative talk to you at all. And they're not even sending any paperwork either. They just send the bill in. I have like 3 bills. And it shows all the late fees on there and all, $39. So that credit line was $1,200. Now it's over $1,400. So you can see it's all a system that they're using. You know, they think it's so great. If it was so great, why am I doing all this? I'm doing it because I don't like it. And I want to make everybody aware of it, that you don't have to put up with it. So the lawyer, again, I'll give you his name. He's a consumer advocate attorney. So he really wants to help the people that are going through this. And his name again is Paul MANKIN. And for a free consultation, give him a call. It's 800-219-3577. Now I'm going to, you know, even though I'm doing all this video, I'm still going to put stuff in the description. You know, that's, you know, it's in the, after the video, I'll put some other things in there. I think I've touched on everything now. But this calling, you know. I mean, I'm really upset with this Merrick Bank over this. Because, you know, they're worrying about the loss of money. I'm worrying about the loss of a loved one. You know, you can't put any price on that, you know. Now I'm all by myself. And when we were starting out, you know, we discussed this a lot. That if something happened to me, she would go on the best she can. And if something happened to her, I would do it. And that's what I'm doing. Because that's what she wanted me to do. That's why I'm doing this. And she's being disrespected, in a sense. Because they're notified, and the lawyer knows about it. Because I dealt with them last year around this time I started. About a year ago. With the accounts that I had. So, they got to be more, I guess, user-friendly. And that's what the problem is. They're not. And they're in business for over 20 years. They got a lot of complaints, a lot of lawsuits and stuff, but it's snuffed out, like, you know. You don't hear about it. They're located in, I don't know the location. It's like in the middle of the United States. They have different locations, but if you live near there, you would probably, you know about Merrick Bank. But mostly people don't know about it. I'm sure all the people that listen to my rants here on social media, I'm sure you don't know about it. That's why I'm bringing it all up. The main thing is the harassing phone calls. Those calls are intended to annoy you. And then you pick it up, nobody's there. They won't even give you a chance to tell them anything. And they don't leave a message. So they got it all fixed. They think it's so good, huh? Well, it might be. According to me, it's not. They can call all they want. I cannot pay. I can't pay. Remember, if you're, like I said before, you still owe the money. But there is a statute of limitations. Depending on your state, in Pennsylvania, it's 4 years. From your last payment, not when you open the account. So this particular account, I don't think it'll count on this account because it's already going to be forgiven in a sense because the card holder passed away. But otherwise, if it's 4 years, it will be forgiven after 4 years from the last payment. That means it's legally forgiven and it's uncollectible, so you have to be careful with these debt collectors. Because they get a lot of those accounts and they try to collect it and you don't realize it. It'll say it's $500. Okay, we'll make a deal. Pay $200, we'll wipe it out, we'll adjust your credit record and all. As soon as you do that, you start the clock running again. Any arrangement you make, so don't make any deals. You know, unless if you come up with some money you want to pay, pay. Just like now. Any accounts that I owe, like Citibank or Capital One, any of those, say I owe, right? And a debt collector contacts me. I'm not going to give him the money. If I'm going to pay it, I'm going to pay it to the bank that gave me the money to begin with. So there's another thing you can do. Now later on, I did get my affairs straightened out. I might go back and say, well, this bank was good with me. You know, they didn't harass me. I want to try to pay them. That's the best way to do it. So again, if you don't know, like I said, contact a lawyer. I gave you his name and all, his number. And I hope he can help you. He's helped me plenty of times already. Remember, that credit card company, or they have to pay for his legal fees and the court costs. And stop calling. And maybe mark the debt paid. Meaning, it shouldn't be collected from anybody then. If they mark it paid, it'll go on your credit report as paid. That's worth something. You might get some money. Because I know those auto dial calls, they could have to pay $500 or more per call. That's why I say it's important to keep track of the calls. I got enough calls and I, put up with it during January. See, now we're in February of 2020. But in January, I was doing all these videos. There's plenty of them. If you want to look them up, I think you can go on YouTube and punch in my name, put Frank Lieber videos in the search box, and all of them will come up, all the videos I've been putting in. Not just about this. I put things for other things also. But I guess it's pretty much time to, I don't want to take up any more time here, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope it was very helpful to you. And again, like I said, if you have any problems, the best thing to do is contact the lawyer. I'll give you his name one more time. Consumer Advocate Attorney Paul Mankin, MANKIN. His number is 800-219-3577. Okay, I want you to have a great day, and I'll see you again in the next video.